Hello and welcome to the second part of the interview with Ryan Schutter, who is the lead UI for Stormgate. Today we discuss the editor user-generated content and the face thingies, also known as the unit portraits in the GUI. Enjoy. I have a bunch of questions, which I'm not quite sure how to categorize them. And
Sure.
I know that you're a pretty smart guy, so I had you and Kevin, and I was like, all the questions that seemed a little tricky, and I wasn't sure where to put them. I'll put them in your area. So
Great.
you're gonna get
so
some
Kevin
random
got all the
questions.
easy stuff.
Yeah, he got the easy stuff, he got all the home
like,
runs earlier.
Do we want to have people have fun playing the game? Yeah. Oh, great. He's walking over here now.
Yeah, he got all the easy home runs. That's why he's looking so happy right now as well.
He's telling me you had easy mode, and I get all the hard stuff.
Something maybe not completely related to UI, but from the screenshots we saw, the camera looks a little bit more zoomed in than StarCraft 2. Is this true, or did this person called Delta Boxer not see this correctly?
I wouldn't worry about that at all right now.
Okay,
This is very early.
Too early in the process?
Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Okay.
We will be doing a lot of work between now and releasing the game. So
Okay. Yeah.
that'll change a lot.
Then Peter Maltsov asked, will there be a face thing when you select the unit in the GUI? I always liked that. I just thought it was kind of a cute question there.
He's talking about the unit portrait. So like I select a Marine and then I see a 3D portrait of the Marine standing there.
The face thing. I think we all got what he meant.
So this is a very controversial topic right now, actually, within the team. Building those 3D portraits is a substantial amount of work. They're almost more work than building the units themselves, right?
Really?
So like if we do that, because you have to localize their voiceover and stuff. So they're sitting there talking, right? But we have localized VO. If you have like other languages, right? Then you have to like do their lip sync for other languages as well. There's a huge amount of work that goes into those things. And we have a relatively small team, like you guys know how much money we've raised and things like that. But that money is going to get us to, a certain point. And we want to make sure that we're using it as efficiently as possible. So do we want to hire multiple dedicated people to deal with just doing these portraits? That's something that we are debating right now. So whether they're there is still in question. I've gone back and forth myself on whether I think that they should be there. I think that we don't want to undervalue them. I think a lot of people tend to undervalue something like that. That's almost cosmetic, but they create a feel for the game.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that if we don't do them, that it's not going to like significantly detract from like the feel. And if we don't do them, do we do a 2D portrait instead? Do we do a 2.5D portrait? Is that even easier than doing a 3D portrait, a 2.5D portrait? We don't know. So there's a lot that we have to look at there. But at the moment, that is still uncertain. I'm sorry I don't have a concrete answer for you. It's actually something that we've been having. I've been having a comedic back and forth with our lead animator about that issue specifically for a while now. So we will come to some conclusion. I'd say like right now we're leaning towards no. But we'll see. We'll see.
If it means anything, Peter likes them. So he always liked that.
Who doesn't? Yeah. I mean, they're cool, but they are also extremely expensive.
Yeah, okay. Oh, I'll pass it on to Peter. Another question. Will we stick with realistic physics? Isn't it a bit dumb that a Viper can abduct a huge capital ship, or is it just me? Question asked by just me.
You say stick with, but it sounds like you're saying, will we change to have realistic physics?
Yeah, sorry.
I would say that we will probably not care about being realistic with the gameplay interactions in the game. Things like scale and, does it make sense that a handful of Marines are killing a battle cruiser or something like we're just going to try to make the best game that we can from a gameplay perspective. And I don't think we're going to try to force realism into it or anything like that.
Okay, cool. I like that. Please tell me I can play it on Linux. Now, there was a question mark there, but it felt more like a man begging for it than anything else. And I like to say that his name is Francisco Del Mar Curpil, which sounds like a very fancy Italian name. So I'd be a little bit careful with what you answer here.
Yeah, I would say right now we're primarily worried about getting it playable on Windows. But we may get there. I won't rule that out. But we have a lot that we still need to do, and that's not at the top priority on the list, I would say. But I wouldn't say that it isn't something that we would would do. I just I'm not the person who would prioritize that. I'm not the person who would have to build it. I'm not the person who would be able to judge how expensive that would be. But first of all, we got a game that we got to build for the vast majority of users.
Yeah. Will there be LAN by Ludus Nemo?
LAN. Oh God, we've not talked about that at the moment. We will probably have some form of LAN, at least for us, to be playtesting the game early on. Whether that will make it into the game ultimately, I will tell you right now, I think that having LAN or not having LAN is probably does not come down to what people think it comes down to. And it's not like, oh, there's no technology or something like that. It's that the more features you put into a game, the more things that you have to have ongoing support for. And LAN isn't a free feature from a development perspective. When we know we have to build this online platform for arranging games and playing custom games with your friends and things like that. So what we have to do is judge whether LAN is a feature that provides enough value to justify the cost of developing it instead of something else. And we haven't made that judgment call yet. I've not heard any discussion at the moment so far about like, are we going to do this or not? We're just not there yet. We're still working on super early stuff. I know that we have to build it to some degree for our own purposes for playtesting, but that doesn't mean that what we build is great for consumption from the general public.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I don't think that there's any like, no, we absolutely can't do that for business reasons or something, which is what I expect most people think was true on StarCraft 2 as well. I mean, I know it's really more about having to add something that then you have to add ongoing support for. Every feature has not just an initial cost, but an ongoing cost as well. Though LAN is probably one of the lower ongoing cost features. So maybe, yeah.
Then another question by just me. Can my potato PC run it while getting playable FPS?
Well, we certainly hope so. I think that that's a key factor in getting as many people to play the game as possible. So, that is something that we're going to be looking at. I mean, Unreal 5 is fantastic from a graphic standpoint. I hope that we have all the tools that we need in order to create something that can run both on lower end systems and higher end systems and look great and not be just a huge amount of extra work for us to support both of those things. For me personally, and I cannot speak for the art team, so absolutely do not take this as concrete info, but like, man, I hope, especially after like watching StarCraft 2 for so many years and like tuning into somebody's stream where they play on the lowest settings, and it just looks like absolute garbage. I'm hoping that we at least we really take that into consideration when we're approaching. But I think we're still trying to figure out the general look of the game at a high level. That's definitely something that is important, is making sure that people can play on those low settings. Though I also hope that the community doesn't just obsessively play on the lowest possible settings all the time. I mean, come on, play on at least medium.
Beauty in simplicity, Ryan. I've been playing on low with medium textures for the past 12 years of my life, and I like it that way. No matter what it will look like in Stormgate, I will be playing on low and medium textures. I already know. I have it preset in my mind. That is what's going to happen. There's nothing you can do.
We should release a skin set that's all like cubes and
well, I'd be playing with that.
Tones and stuff. Yeah, just like make it as simple as possible for people.
What you could also do to trick people is to just have the low and the medium settings be the highest. So just change the names and then have basically call anything below what usually be medium, just call it potato or complete garbage. No way someone would want to play with that.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I think that users really like it when you deceive them like that. So people really appreciate that.
I'm sure they will. Some of the more serious questions. I know you're very big on the map editor. So I actually had a question from Marco Campanella, which was fixed maps or generated maps? And the question I want to ask is also, are generated maps even possible? And what are we looking at here?
Are you talking about say a StarCraft 2 style map versus an Age of Empires style map?
Yeah. Okay. I think that was the main point, yeah.
I think that we are definitely looking at fixed maps. We are a Blizzard style RTS, so that's the zone that we're going to be entering. We have talked a little bit about, and this is I don't know if this will make it into the game or not, but we have talked a little bit about it would be nice if, particularly for things like co-op, if maybe some of the bonus objectives or things like that could change out from a mission to mission basis, so that like when you play each mission, maybe it's a little bit different because it's got these side objectives or things like that. But I don't think you should expect to see something like Age of Empires where you have totally randomly generated maps with constraints. But I don't think you should expect to see that.
Okay.
Whether that'll be possible with a map editor, I would say that won't be an early focus for us to get on the map editor. So probably not right away, but who knows? Maybe in the future we could do that. I actually think that would be super cool, especially offering that support for modding.
To continue on the map editor, what will people be capable of creating with the editor, asks Firekeep. Now, I obviously realize this is the biggest question you can ask, because obviously the sky is the limit. But if you were to compare it to other map editors, are there any features that you really want to have added? And are there any features that might be taken away because of budgetary reasons?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there will almost certainly be things that we aren't able to hit in the time that we have available to build this thing. But we have the three core pillars that we know we want to hit, which is the terrain editor, and we want to create something that feels great, just like Warcraft 3 and Starcraft 2 terrain editor, a script editor. We want to do something a little bit different there in the form of visual scripting or flow graph scripting, but I won't talk about that too much right now. And the data editor. Those are the three things that we know we need to hit, and that allows people to create melee maps. That's the terrain editor. It allows people to create totally different game types, which is scripting, and then it allows you to create new units and abilities and things like that to fill out your custom game types, and that's data. So those are the three things that we know we need to hit, and we want to hit them at a level that would cover, say, 95 to 99% of the maps that people might make in, say, StarCraft 2 with just the in-game editor. And the in-game editor is a little bit different than the way the editor works in StarCraft 2, because in StarCraft 2, you have to launch the editor separately than the game.
Right.
In Stormgate, our goal, and we do have this working right now, so hopefully this does not change right now, and I don't know if this will continue because there could be constraints that prevent this from working in the future, but at the moment, you can actually switch between playing the game and editing a map, like kind of like back and forth.
Basically live
quickly.
play testing as you put stuff in.
Yeah, you could like switch to editing and then place like a new set of cliffs and then switch back to playing and then walk up those cliffs using your units.
Oh, okay.
That whether that's going to stay there, whether it even makes sense for us to keep, I think those are things that we still are. We're a ways out from releasing this tool and understanding the exact shape that it needs to be in for that. But we are working on that. But we know that we want the terrain editor to feel great. So when people get in, they see the terrain sitting there. They can raise and lower cliffs. They can paint textures. They can place doodads and trees and stuff like that. They can place units. Basically, all the things that you would expect from, say, Warcraft 3 or Starcraft 2's terrain editor. From the scripting side, we are approaching scripting fairly similarly to StarCraft 2 in the way that scripting is structured, and that it's like sort of a nesting type of thing where your parameter values are nested within each action or function. But ours is going to be visualized differently. It's going to be visualized as a flow graph. So something similar to Unreal's blueprints, if anybody's familiar with that. The intention is for it to auto-generate the layout of the flow graph rather than it have be something like, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Blueprint, but the way it works is when you're scripting something, you have say like, hey, I want to make 5 units. You'll have a function and it'll look like a brick on the screen,
Okay.
and it'll say make X units, and then there will be like a little field where you can type in what is X, 5. Or you can have a variable that's also a little brick on the screen that you can then connect to that slot to make it 5. We want to do something like that, but we want it to be a little bit more strict or constrained in the way that it is displayed, so that when we create scripts, we don't have to worry about sticking to a specific standard of like how things are organized. It'll just automatically do it for us. That way, when people open up the maps and things that we created, they're not having to learn how does Kevin make a script versus how does Ryan make a script versus how does Chris make a script or something like that. Like they don't have to learn this like different, almost like a different style of handwriting or something like that. And instead they can just, immediately pick up the way that it works. So that's something that we're approaching from the scripting side. We still got a long ways to go there. That's probably the thing that's the furthest off for us in the editor right now. Designers right now are actually still working in like a sort of low-level C++ script to write scripts. So we're getting there though, but that is our ultimate goal. For the data editor, which we're much further along with, one thing that we're doing differently is that we're going to have like simple and advanced modes for the editor. The difference between those two modes is that the advanced mode is basically the way that we would use it, where you can see literally everything. You can see all of the fields on a piece of data. You can see all of the associated pieces of data and all of their fields if you want. But the simple mode is really only going to show sort of top-level data and fields that we specifically flag as being important. So, for example, let's look at the Marine from StarCraft 2. I can't remember the exact number, but I think the Marine had something like 73 different fields on it in StarCraft 2 data. And then the Marine also had something like 30 or 40 associated pieces of data that each had their own number of fields.
Sure.
The vast majority of those fields are for things that nobody really cares about for the most part, for the vast majority of use cases. Things like how high is the status bar above the unit's head, like how high is their health bar above their head. There's just a ton of these little fields that are important for us, but don't matter that much for someone who just wants to make a new unit. So what
Right.
we're going to do is we're going to go through and flag where's the health field, where's the damage field, where's the movement speed field. We're going to flag those things that people see as being really important.
Hmm.
And then hopefully what that'll do is it'll make it much easier for people to jump into the data editor and be like, I'm going to create a new, I've got my soldier here, but I want to make super soldier. I'm going to duplicate soldier, and then I'm just going to edit these core fields, and now I have super soldier. And they don't have to worry about like finding everything. Where is the correct information? Because like, so on the Marine, for example, his damage might not actually be on the Marine data. It's going to be on his weapon data, which is a different data object for his Gauss rifle or whatever. So
Yeah.
you're going to have to you have to know to click on the Marine, and then you have to know to go find this other piece of data that's associated with the Marine, and then you can like find that damage value. Like we're going to make it so that the data editor understands that that rifle kind of is associated with the Marine. And so if we flag the damage value on the rifle, when you click on the Marine, you're going to see that damage value on the Marine. You're not going to have to go find the rifle. We have, I think, a really solid plan for how to approach the simple mode for the data editor. We already have the advanced mode feeling pretty good right now. So we really need to get that simple mode into action so that it would actually be helpful even internally, because then I could mess around with it a little bit more. I'm not much of a data guy myself. So we have some amazing data designers here, technical designers that are that do great data work. But for me, it's always been a challenge. So I think something like that would actually be really helpful for me as well. So I'm hoping that we can get that stood up really soon. But that's the plan for data.
All right, continuing on this question, let's take someone like me, an almost high school dropout. I've been playing the same game for 12 years, haven't learned any skills except playing more StarCraft 2. Would it be possible for me with limited intelligence to make map in the map editor? And will there be any tutorials associated with that as well? It always felt like a world apart. I opened up the StarCraft 2 editor twice in my life, and that was probably by accident. What is in this folder? So yeah, basically the slightly less intelligent part of the population that will be playing Stormgate. Will we be capable of building something, or is it still perhaps a step too high?
Well, I didn't finish high school, Harstem, but I'm in there making maps. You can do it. But yeah, like it's something that we certainly hope will be a lot more approachable for people. I think that just being in the client at all is going to encourage a lot more people to open it than it would be as a file you have to go into Windows somewhere to find and open. Just by getting more people in, I think that we're going to see more content, and we'll see more tutorials. We'll just see more support in general for the editor, both from us and from the community, because we're hoping that it'll encourage more activity. As far as tutorial content specifically, absolutely, that's something that we would like to do. Bandwidth is a concern. We have a lot that we need to do to building this game, but we have some really strong ideas around tutorials. We actually did some work on tutorials at Blizzard, and we've learned a lot of lessons, I think, over time on what the right approach to tutorials is. So really what it comes down to is whether we have the time to build those out in the way that we should. So what we will be thinking about is strategically, is there a way that we can set something up that allows users to submit really strong tutorials? Is there a way that we can create templates for people to create really strong tutorials for and things like that? But what we found has been most effective is really bite-sized tutorials. Like instead of how do you make a tower defense game, you teach people like how do you make a unit, and then like how do you make a turret, and then how do you make a this, and then people can kind of learn the different pieces. It's much easier to jump into individual tasks rather than to just be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of things that you need to do for a single tutorial. That combined with example maps, so for example, if I want to teach somebody how to have an ability that throws a grenade, you want an example map that it's literally just the normal game, but now the soldier or the Marine or whatever, he has a grenade ability. And so they can go and look at just that, and they don't have to worry about all the other things that tutorial might be doing, because that's it. That's all it's focused on.
Yeah.
I think bite-sized tutorial content is really incredibly important. And if we have the time and resources to do that, we definitely will try to approach it in that way.
Actually, a question once again by Toby Obeck. Will you publish all features at once, or will some features be added later after the initial release? And what is the main focus there?
I think we certainly would love to have everything in the game on release. That is certainly our goal, but we will be realistic as we approach getting the game out with deciding what the correct path is, whether it's to delay or to say, hey, this is going to come later after release or something like that. We will approach that when the time comes where we're forced to make those decisions. But right now, it's still a little early. We've got kind of like everything in development all at once. We don't even know yet whether something is going to be a huge problem to hit that release date yet, because we're still early in some of the development on some of those features.
Question by Firekeep. Will the game be integrated in the Steam Workshop? And I have no clue what the Steam Workshop is or what it does. So I'm just saying the words.
Yeah, I think that for us modding for maps and mods, we expect something a little closer to, say, what StarCraft 2 has than the way Steam Workshop normally works. But we haven't looked too deeply yet at whether it makes sense to integrate with Steam Workshop. So it's a possibility. But right now, I would say probably not the same way you might expect most games, because mods and maps for our game, I expect to be kind of a little bit different than what those usually do.
Okay.
Because we have a multiplayer game and we expect most of our mods and maps to be played in a multiplayer way. And I think that Steam Workshop content is generally, I mean, I know it can be used for multiplayer content as well, but I think it's really generally used for, single player content and just kind of modifying the core way that the game plays or adding new art and things like that. But in addition to that, I don't know how many platforms we're going to be on. We might not only be on Steam, and so it doesn't make sense to do Steam integration, Steam Workshop integration if we're on multiple platforms. Okay. So there's a lot to consider there.
Okay. A bit of a more general question, but what are some specific lessons that you have learned from other games and seeing those games succeed or fail? Some example of games that are named there are StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, Dota, League of Legends. Anything that stands out?
Yeah, I want to be cautious to talk about too much about other games failing or anything like that, but
sure,
we have learned a lot from watching other products and what other people are doing. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be watching and learning and growing, and that's how we continue to move games forward. So we definitely look at games like League of Legends and Dota and Apex Legends and Age of Empires 4. We're looking at all the things that they're doing, the different things that they're experimenting with, the things that have worked for them and that haven't worked for them. Like, so for example, the automated tournaments system in StarCraft 2, it's okay. Like we put a lot of effort into building that, but it was probably not as successful as we would have liked it to be. But League of Legends has had massive success with their tournament system. So there's probably a lot of lessons that we could take from what they're doing. So those are the things that we're kind of looking at. Like, where are the areas of weakness that StarCraft 2 had potentially that we could grow in, and what are other teams and companies doing that, succeeded in those areas? Yeah, there's a lot of that that's going on. I don't have like a huge number of specific examples for you, but that's something that we're constantly doing.
Sure. A question I got asked by Harstem, which happens to be me. Is there an ability to spectate in client? And I'm talking about games that you aren't hosting yourselves. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Dota 2 concept, that you can watch top-level games from within the client. Is that something that is considered to be released initially or perhaps later on, or maybe never?
It's absolutely under consideration. I know that we have been trying to architect the game in a way that will allow us to do that in a way that, like, say, StarCraft 2 is much more challenging. Whether it'll be there like right away at launch or something like that. Again, I'm not saying it isn't going to be. I'm just saying it's so, so far off. It's really difficult to make a promise on a feature like that when we're so far out.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. But it's something that right now what's being created is with that in mind as well. Okay. That's cool. Another question by Toby Obeck. Will you offer a programming interface like SE2 Client Proto for developing bots and allowing deep learning research? Do you have thoughts on bot ladders, a player versus community AI game mode, or AI in general? Once again, these are a lot of words, and I know what these words mean individually, but you'll kind of have to walk me through this.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is actually sort of out of my wheelhouse as well, unfortunately. There might be better people on the team for answering this question. Everybody working on StarCraft 2 was really excited by DeepMind and what building the API that allowed DeepMind to function meant and what other people created with it. Whether we're able to support that right away, I'm not sure. I know that we all really loved that work and we thought it was really interesting and fascinating. And I think that from a technology standpoint, what we're architecting today, we have learned a lot of lessons from StarCraft 2 about whether supporting that type of thing is how hard it is to add later. So we try to plan for a lot of that stuff from early on, but I can't say for sure whether that support is going to be there.
All right, that is pretty much all the questions we had. Just have one final question, and it's the same question that we asked Monk. Monk had to think for 4 to 5 minutes about it, so it's a very tricky one. And the question is, what is your favorite mechanic or feature in any RTS? This is asked by Tactical New Gaming. Whether that's in your own field of UI or a concept in an RTS or a unit, it doesn't really matter. Just something really clever that you wish that you'd come up with.
Yeah, my favorite mechanic is the capture points from the Dawn of War and Company of Heroes series, where your economy is driven by holding territory on the map more than it is by building things in your base and having workers mine and things like that. I know that that's almost criminal to say when I'm working on a Blizzard RTS game. Don't worry, guys, you're going to have workers. They're going to be mining resources and things like that. But I really love that mechanic because I feel like it naturally like decreases deathballing in a way. It still happens in Company of Heroes, but usually those players get punished pretty hard for that. It encourages you to kind of spread your forces out, cover as much ground as possible, to kind of probe weak points in multiple areas, even at the same time. And I think that that's something that's really, really interesting rather than watching two armies kind of just like, shuffle around each other. And I think a lot of what Relic has experimented with over the years from a design perspective has just been really brilliant. Not all of it's worked out, but I think that some of the things that they've done, particularly with those capture points, in Dawn of War 2, you could capture a point and then build generators on it to increase your income from that point. And that was really fascinating because players could either choose to come and destroy the generators to harass you, or they could capture the point and steal the generators so that they would get more resources from the generators you invested in. Like, I think there's so many interesting things that they've done over the years with their designs that I think that that's the one that stands out to me the most, though, because it's completely changed the way that people interact with the map. And I really appreciate what they did there with that. And so for us, I think that can we take any lessons from that and apply it to Blizzard RTS? Maybe, maybe not. But we do know that there's like a sort of a feel to some of that, particularly in team games, is really strong in their stuff. And if we can encourage that kind of play where you're kind of like probing and spreading out and vying for map control, whether it's it may not be capture points or something like that, but if we can kind of try to encourage that type of gameplay, we think it would be really positive. So that's something that I've really appreciated about their games. But they have other things as well, like the dynamic between vehicles and setup teams and then infantry. There's basically three different things that all control in three different ways, and the dynamic of players trying to manage those things is, I also think, quite interesting. So I've just been really impressed with what they've done. And in fact, the capture point thing, to talk about how impressed I am with it, how I kind of got involved in modding StarCraft 2 is I created a mod that sort of tries to turn the economy of StarCraft 2 into a capture point economy. And I did that because I also did it in Warcraft 3. And I also did it in Brood War.
Okay.
So this is something that I
over the years with modding.
Yes, that's all I do. But I got involved because I really love the crisp unit control of Blizzard RTS, and I was always wondered if it could be married with like that type of territory control aspect of Relic RTS games. And I've had varying degrees of success with the mod at achieving that. But yeah, it's something that's always fascinated me, and I really appreciate.
That's a great answer. Cool. All right, that's actually all the questions we had, kind of pertaining to your field, and also a lot of general questions around it. Is there anything else you'd like to say or anything you're passionate about that you're currently working on? Now's your time.
Yeah, no, I'm just excited that with the announcements out there. I hope people are excited about the game. Check out this will probably be live after, but the PC gaming show, I think, which is on 2 days from now for me. But go check out that content. There's going to be like a little bit more than there was in the announcement. And of course, go to our website and sign up for the beta and stuff like that. Follow us on Twitter. Do all the things that are good from a social media standpoint.
I'll have a couple of links in the description for everyone. Make sure to wish list it on Steam.
Probably better at this than me. Yeah, wish list on Steam. Thanks for covering me.
Yeah. All right. And the most important thing is to tell your friends about it. Get them involved. Virality, natural virality is what Kevin told me earlier. Thanks so much for your time. I hope to talk with you again soon sometime in the future. And once again, thank you.
Yeah.
And bye-bye.
That'd be great. Well, thank you very much.
That's going to be it for the interview with Ryan Schutter. We still have a 2-hour interview with Kevin Dong, which we will be uploading in parts over the next few weeks as well, where we will be discussing co-op, units, balance, StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, anything that you would want to know about Stormgate, we will answer there. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz. Ciao.